Albert Pike. He was the Grand Commander, Sovereign Pontiff of Universal Freemasonry years ago. All right? The Grand Commander, Sovereign Pontiff, like the Pope of Universal Freemasonry. So if anybody should know whether Freemasonry is a religion, Albert Pike should know. And here's what Albert Pike said when he was giving instructions to the 23 Supreme Councils of the world of Freemasonry. And I quote, "That which we must say to the crowd is, we worship a God, but it is the God one adores without superstition. To you, Sovereign Grand Inspector Generals, we say this." Listen to this. He says what they should tell the public. But what should be told to the Inspector Generals, okay, that he was meeting with? Sovereign Grand Inspector Generals, we say this, and you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st, and 30th degrees. So all those who are lower than that never get to know this. He says, the Masonic religion should be by all of us, initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. I want you to hear that. So Albert Pike said, Freemasonry is a religion to be maintained within the teachings of the Luciferian doctrine. And another interesting thing, let me give you something here. Just listen to what he said. Here is his argument as he presented this argument to the Grand Inspector Generals of the Freemasons. If Lucifer were not God, because he says Lucifer is God. Now, they worship Lucifer. This is my point. This is my point, that it is not an economic issue. It is about establishing a Luciferian order. It is about enthroning Satan. It is about the worship of Satan. This is what the World Economic Forum Club is about. This is what it's about. You may not know it. At the junior levels, you're not going to know it. Now, here is what Albert Pike provided them, a strategy. And what Klaus Schwab is doing is modifying this strategy for today's world, because Albert Pike presented this years ago. So what is done, and I'll show you how he modifies it. Just listen to this. He says, if Lucifer were not God, would Adonai, the God of the Christians, whose deeds prove cruelty, perfidy, and hatred of man, barbarism, and repulsion for science. Did you hear that? Would Adonai and his priests calumniate him? He says, if Lucifer were not God, would Adonai, the God of the Christians, and his priests calumniate Lucifer? Can you imagine that? Look at the reasoning. So he goes on to say, yes, Lucifer is God. Then he says, and unfortunately, Adonai is also God. For the eternal law is that there is no light without shade, no beauty without ugliness, no white without black. For the absolute can only exist as two gods. Darkness being necessary for light to serve as its foil, as the pedestal is necessary to the statute, and the brake to the locomotive. Thus the doctrine, now here's an interesting thing. The doctrine of Satanism is heresy.